Hey, good morning. Welcome to lesson 196. It can be but myself I crucify. And always keeping the finger on the nose. I'm doing this to myself. I'm not separate from this. This is just my mind. All of these sorts of little prompts that bring us back to our singular perspective on life, our singular perception, where all of a sudden there's not a me and a someone else out there who's doing something to me. It's me projecting out onto them, getting the results of that back and judging it accordingly, thinking that somehow I'm separate, which of course separation from love, if love is everything, separation from love must be only therefore the opposite of that, which is going to be pain and suffering and death. It's pretty simple, isn't it? All right, it can be but myself I crucify. When this is firmly understood and kept in full awareness, you will not attempt to harm yourself nor make your body slave to vengeance. You will not attack yourself, and you will realize that to attack another is but to attack yourself. You will be free of the insane belief that to attack a brother saves yourself, and you will understand his safety is your own, and in his healing you are healed. Perhaps at first you will not understand how mercy, limitless and with all things held in its sure protection, can be found in the idea we practice for today. It may in fact appear to be a sign that punishment can never be escaped because the ego, under what it sees as threat, is quick to cite the truth to save its lies. Yet must it fail to understand the truth it uses thus. But you can learn to see these foolish applications and deny the meaning they appear to have. Thus do you also teach your mind that you are not an ego, for the ways in which the ego would distort the truth will not deceive you longer. You will not believe you are a body to be crucified, and you will see within today's idea the light of resurrection, looking past all thoughts of crucifixion and of death to thoughts of liberation and of life. Today's idea is one step we take in leading us from bondage to the sense of perfect freedom. Let us take this step today that we may quickly go the way salvation shows us, taking every step in its appointed sequence as the mind relinquishes its burdens one by one. It is not time we need for this, it is but willingness. And what would seem to need, this is really cool, ready? And what would seem to need 1,000 years can easily be done in just one instant by the grace of God. I kind of feel like in that bit, like, I don't know if you're watching this, if you're aware of our Zoom meetings, we've only had the 2 so far, but we're talking about watching out for your cycles, where you repeat the same thing day after day or week after week or year after year, and it becomes a cycle and you find yourself going, oh, not this again, which could go on forever. And the miracle, which is the habitual, takes care or heals the habitual response mechanism in the mind that continually wants to validate itself through the cause and effect relationship that cycle represents. The miracle removes the trigger, if you like, or removes the block. And so that whole cycle, which takes time, a week, a day, a year, throughout this lifetime, your next lifetime, your next lifetime, thousands of years are snipped out in just that willingness to be healed of that one particular miscreative thought process. Call it that. The dreary, hopeless thought that you can make attacks on others and escape yourself has nailed you to the cross. Perhaps it seemed to be salvation, yet it merely stood for the belief the fear of God is real And what is that but hell? Who could believe his father is his deadly enemy, separate from him and waiting to destroy his life and blot him from the universe without the fear of hell upon his heart? Such is the form of madness you believe. If you accept the fearful thought you can attack another and be free yourself. Until this form is changed, there is no hope. Until you see that this, at least, must be entirely impossible, how could there be escape? The fear of God is real to anyone who thinks this thought is true, and he will not perceive its foolishness or even see that there is. And he will not perceive its foolishness or even see that it is there, so that it would be possible to question it. To question it at all, its form must first be changed, at least as much as will permit fear of retaliation to abate and the responsibility return to some extent to you. From there you can at least consider if you want to go along this painful path. Until this shift has been accomplished, you cannot perceive that it is but your thoughts that bring you fear, and your deliverance depends upon you. Our next steps will be easy if you take this one today. From there we go ahead quite rapidly, for once you understand it is impossible that you be hurt except by your own thoughts, the fear of God must disappear. You do not now believe that fear is caused without, and God, whom you had thought to banish, can be welcomed back within the holy mind he never left. Salvation's song can certainly be heard in the idea we practice for today. If it can but be you crucify, you did not hurt the world and need not fear its vengeance and pursuit. Nor need you hide in terror from the deadly fear of God projection hides behind. The thing you dread the most is your salvation. You are strong, and it is strength you want. And you are free and glad of freedom. You have sought to be both weak and bound because you feared your strength and freedom, yet salvation lies in them. There is an instant in which, this is great, ready? And this goes to where you feared your strength and freedom, and I'll just cap on that in a sec. There is an instant, ready? Listen to this. There is an instant in which terror seems to grip your mind so wholly that escape appears quite hopeless. Right? There is an instant in which terror seems to grip your mind so wholly that escape appears quite hopeless. So that tiny moment of terror. So here we go. You have sought to be both weak and bound because you feared your strength and freedom. It's like, man, you were given free will, right? And I'm speaking in the singular you. It's such a head fuck, isn't it? But that's why you have an experience, right? So the very first experience from the use of free will was the idea of separation, which is like, I know I've talked about this in other videos, it's like a little child being separated from its parent at a supermarket. It's terrifying. All you'd ever known was the love and the comfort and the guidance of your parents, and then all of a sudden you're lost in the supermarket, or you've been sucked into a void through an idea of separation, and asking, what is this, or what am I? You know, and embarked upon the journey of the soul of self-discovery. But that moment of terror, of believing in separation, so terrifying that you didn't want to use the full power of your mind ever again. You didn't want to use free will again. But yet it has to be free will, because the law of free will is immutable, has to be free will of your own free choice to return back through that portal, to return back to that place where you think separation occurred to you, so you can see that through the action of the resurrection, right, which is the escape from death, that the separation never actually occurred. Right? Doesn't mean that you won't believe that it occurred, and doesn't mean that you won't seem to want to validate all those fears and that moment of terror. But my wife once said to me she had an experience of, in the same thing in the dark night of my soul. It was terrifying. But my wife once said to me that during one of her meditations, she slipped into this place where it was terrifying, completely dark, and she recoiled from it. She recoiled from it and came out of her meditation and then just went about it, and didn't want to face it again. But that's what you're looking at. That's like, it feels like you're going to be sucked out. And it takes great learning to learn not to adjust to that, to allow that to actually happen. Let yourself go into the void in your own consciousness, and you'll realize that at the place where you thought there was actually a void and nothingness, that there is everything, right? It's like a black hole. The moment that you go in, you're on the other side before you went in, because gravity is so intense, it pulls you in faster than the speed of light, which means you actually see yourself going in from the other side. It's kind of funny. So there's no separation at all. Yet there is an instant in which terror seems to grip your mind so wholly that escape appears quite hopeless, right? When you realize once and for all that it is you fear, the mind perceives itself as split. And this had been concealed while you believed attack could be directed outward and returned from outside to within. It seemed to be an enemy outside you had to fear, and thus a God outside yourself now became your mortal enemy, the source of fear. Now for an instant is a murderer perceived within you, eager for your death, intent on plotting punishment for you until the time when it can kill at last. Yet in this instant is the time as well in which salvation comes, for fear of God has disappeared, and you can call upon him to save you from illusions in his love, calling him Father and yourself his Son. Pray that the instant may be soon. Today, step back from fear and make advance to love. There is no thought of God that does not go with you to help you reach that instant, and to go beyond it quickly, surely, and forever. When the fear of God is gone, there are no obstacles that still remain between you and the holy peace of God. How kind and merciful is the idea we practice. Give it welcome, as you should, for it is your release. It is indeed but you your mind can try to crucify, yet your redemption too will come from you. Cool lesson. Sorry about my hiccups. All right, so keep the finger on the nose. I'm not separate from this, I'm not separate from that. Singular perception. It takes that moment of mind training, like it can last a year or 2 or 3 or 10 or whatever it takes. And eventually you stop doing these ones going, when am I going to get it? Or, I got that wrong again. Or, I missed that opportunity. All of these sorts of things. You stop doing that and you just be a little more gentle with yourself. And you're like, all right, I'm not going to accomplish this in a particular frame of time according to my ideas of what I think I'm pursuing here, but I am able to call upon the miracle within myself through the prayer of the heart for the healing of the mind that believes in time, believes in separation, for an experience and for healing that brings an experience of showing me something that not only relieves me from my worries and concerns and my fears and everything like that, but offers me an alternative, one which I already know perfectly well, which is love. Peace.